Good day. I am so excited to bring you Game Changers, candid conversations with another historic woman. You're going to meet one of the first women of color to have a gaming studio a little later today. But this woman, she is co-founder of Glow Up Games, and she is co-founder with her Asian colleague and another woman of color. And the two of them have one of the most game changing, for a lack of a better word, but so true to what I'm saying, studios. And I want to bring up right now Latoya Peterson. I'm super excited to have her. She is a CXO of Glow Up Games, and I wanted to talk to her as two brown female executives in the gaming industry, and one of the less than a handful of gaming studios in the world. More about how you change history, why you changed history. So I'm so excited and appreciate you being here today. Thank you so much, Latoya.
Thank you, Keisha, for having me back. And I just want to say, before we start, thank you so much for putting on this amazing event, for fighting for representation at esports and at all levels in the gaming industry. There are going to be people who always have something to say. When we focus on women, we focus on particularly women of color. But this work is so vital. It is so important. And so just thank you. Somebody who's been in the struggle for about 12 years now. Thank you so much for what you're doing and what you're building in this space.
No, thank you so much. That means the world to me. And I so appreciate you, and to all of our corporate partners and every single woman who's participating today. I can't tell you the kind remarks, the emails, the message you've sent, they mean so much. And they are what continues to motivate me to move forward. And Latoya, you didn't even know us, and we were introduced, compliments of RSN esports, and immediately every request we've had, you've always stepped up and stood out and just rocked any session. So for that, I thank you. And today is no difference. And I appreciate your time this morning, because I know it's very early. But first and foremost, if you don't mind me asking you, and you kind of mentioned that you've been in the industry 12 years. Can you tell us, walk us through your path and how you got into the industry and why?
Absolutely. So I like to say that my career was games adjacent. So I've been playing games since I was 6. I've always loved playing video games, and started with the gold cartridge Zelda. But I was a media executive, and I actually ran a blog and did a whole bunch of stuff outside of gaming before we decided to found the studio. But when I ran this blog about race and pop culture, I would talk about representations in video games, which at the time, no one was really doing critical analysis of video games. Now there's more outlets that are doing it, but it wasn't really known back then. This is back 2006, 7. And even fewer people were doing any kind of racial conversation or racial analysis about what we were seeing in video games. And for those people who don't know, a lot of times when you see Black faces in video games, on screen, we're not even talking about behind the screen yet, but on screen, frequently we're either athletes or criminals. And so, critiquing the ways in which we're being presented and what was happening was a new thing. So I started doing games criticism. I gave talks all over the place at South by Southwest. I wrote for outlets like Kotaku, like Jezebel, and different places like that, and really had this dialogue going. But I was a media executive, and I worked a lot on representation of people of color in the media broadly. A few years after I started doing that, I got into the future of broadcast. So did a lot with VR and AR. Really started up in my tech skills. I did a fellowship at Stanford, learned about product, learned about what can we do with this new mobile space, and just really wanted to focus there. Then I ended up at a few different organizations. I worked at Al Jazeera, I worked at Fusion, and most recently at ESPN's The Undefeated, where I got to report on esports and start looking at that from the ground up, which is really cool. In addition to my work as an executive on that team, looking at our digital innovation. And so, learned all those different skills. And when it was time for me to think about, okay, what's my life look like after ESPN? What do I want to do with all these new skills I've acquired? I feel like the future is just it's really in technology, and it's really in combining these different disciplines. And that's when my co-founder, Mitu, who you mentioned before, kind of reached out. She was leaving her last startup, which was an AI tools company. And she went, Latoya, how about we start a game studio? And even then, we weren't really taking it that serious. You talk to your homegirls all the time about, oh yeah, we should totally do this together. But through the gaming grapevine, because we have so many friends in the industry, folks were like, oh, Latoya and Mitu are doing something together. And we were introduced to Will Price at HBO, who was looking for a team to take on the Insecure title. So that's how we were like, oh God, we need a company, we need a name. And boom, that's how Glow Up Games started about 2 years ago.
Congratulations. That is awesome. And that was my next question. How long has Glow Up Games been together? And you mentioned or answered how the two of you met. So tell us about what are 3 of the biggest projects that you can share that you're working on right now, and what does that look like? And you mentioned how your relationships have been key and paramount.
Oh, absolutely. So, I mean, we've come from all these different backgrounds. Mitsu's been in the game for 13 years. She's won a BAFTA for her game design and all the things that she's done at the studio. So, you know, we've luckily not been lacking for folks who want to work with us. And so the first big project, the one that's coming out this fall, tied to the last season of the show, is the one we're doing with HBO Insecure. Issa Rae has been a huge supporter of the studio since we first started. She's actually one of our first angel investors. So it's wonderful to have like this kind of Black girl magic flow in what we're building. And so we finally get to debut that. We're doing our final like legal approvals with HBO over the next month. So hopefully we'll start to see a lot more from our studio in terms of what we've been working on behind the scenes once we get those approvals. We just signed another deal with a very large publisher who is fairly famous that hasn't been announced yet, so we're not going to talk about it, but we did sign all the paperwork, everything's in. So that announcement will be coming out shortly, and it's a fun kind of, we're looking at taking the rap mechanic that we pioneered for the Insecure game and applying it to augmented reality, and so like a real world rap battle and street art simulation game. So we're working on the prototype for that with them. And then we've been in talks about Game 3. There's different companies that have approached us. We also want to do our own original IP. So we've been talking about what that looks like after the Insecure game. So that's kind of what's in the pipeline for us for 2021 and 2022.
Can you elaborate a little more on what an original IP is?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, so when you found a game studio, there's two different types of intellectual property. So when I say IP, that's what I'm talking about. And there, you can either license an IP, so you can take something that someone else has already created. So normally if you're working with a television show, if you're working with a cartoon, if you're working with a movie, someone else owns that intellectual property, and then you normally license it or they partner with you, and then you build a game based on that. Original IP are like the original creations that you make and you fully own, which from a game studio perspective, that's kind of the model that you want, because you want to be able to monetize in different ways around what you've done. When you have partners strategically, even partners as awesome as Issa Rae and HBO, it can get a little bit sticky in terms of just trying to like do different things. So if we want to sell like hoodies based on, you know, the stuff in Insecure or some funny thing that we said, it's not just our decision now. Now it has to go through HBO legal. It has to go through Issa to see if she likes it. There's a lot more cooks in the kitchen when you do a licensed IP versus not. But intellectual property is kind of like the main thing you have to be thinking about when you own studios or when you create content or create your games.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And then two more questions. Who are 2 or 3 women of color that you look up to in the industry?
Oh, absolutely. My goodness. I mean, so I actually started just trying to make sure we found folks like, you know, Black people are less than 2% of the industry. And so it's challenging, but it doesn't mean that we don't exist, right? And 2 you already have here. So Jacqueline Beauchamp, like even before you introduced us, Keisha, she was a personal hero of mine because of what she was able to do with her studio Energized and launching the Black college football experience on Xbox about a decade ago. And that was like one of the first other Black women I saw doing games and doing them in a very big way. And so it's just like, this is just amazing to see her shining. And now she's here. So like she can talk to you more about her career, I think in a little bit later, right, Keisha?
Absolutely.
Right. So there's Jacqueline. You also got Shanae Bryant, who is also coming on, who's been fantastic in terms of like, you know, when I came into the space full time, just helping to understand. And like, she's also just this phenomenal producer, has worked almost everywhere. And like, she just has this grip. So when I was like, I am losing my mind, she's like, girl, I know what you're talking about. Here you go. So having that like sisterhood bond is amazing. Nicole Bradford is also a legend. Like she's not in games anymore. She went into transformative tech, but she was one of the only Black women that was running Blizzard Entertainment and Vivendi Universal. And so doing like these global deals for these large games companies, Nicole was out in front for so many different years. And I would be remiss if I didn't shout out Reggie Fils-Aimé from Nintendo, or formerly of Nintendo. I mean, he is just an amazing, like just a light in the industry for so long, and he really does care about representation. So he has also been an amazing person to get to know. So, you know, there's plenty of us out there who, you know, I've been amazed at just the warmth of the Blacks in gaming community, and just, you know, people just embracing us and really making sure that we all lift each other as we climb. So like, that's just been one of the best parts of this journey.
Now, if a woman of color that's listening today is interested in finding out how to intern with you, or if there's opportunities for part-time employment, what should they do?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can always check the Globe Games website or our social channels. So we just actually hired a community manager, and we'll be announcing that shortly. And they'll be putting out the stuff around the jobs with us. But we do currently, we're partnering with NYU for their internship program, but we're very open to partnering with HBCUs, especially. We would love to see more folks come through, and we do semester long plus summer internships. So you can get those. Those are paid. mind you, because we believe really strongly that, again, a lot of barriers to those of us getting in the industry are just, again, financial. So all our internships are paid, all of our part-time positions are paid.
Awesome.
And then as the second project spins up, we will have more positions opening up with that are around kind of like art and design, community, and monetization. So just keep an eye out in the summer for a lot more positions will glow up.
And then how can they follow you or on social media?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can @GlowUpGames is our official studio handle on Twitter. We're also on Instagram, so it's glowup.games on Instagram. You can follow me personally at @Latoya Peterson. But again, like we share it back and forth. And we're pretty easy to find. You can just ask around. We try to make ourselves, both me and Matu, very available to anyone who's trying to get in because we understand how it is.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time today. Again, ladies, all about sisterhood, connecting, and networking. Thank you, Latoya, and Glow Up Games for today. I will continue to pray for you and wish you more success. And we look forward to hearing all the amazing things to come. And I'm a huge fan of Issa Rae, so excited about what they're doing. And thank you to HBO for believing in both of you and your business partner to make history happen. So excited about what's to come. And thank you so much for today. I hope you can stick around for more today. But again, we thank you for now. And ladies, I hope you listened and heard what Latoya said. And please keep checking out her social media and website. She's offering internship and potential job opportunities, a great way to get some experience at a phenomenally woman of color owned gaming studio that's in the business.